Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing the board breakers tier list. I decided to split my tech cards, aka staples tier list, into board breakers separately because I think right now it's so interesting with hand traps not seeing that much play, and I figured we would just discuss those cards in particular. So for breaking boards, not every single staple imaginable, and I think it's just going to be a very nice video. And I did include the back row hate as well. Like, I get it, you know, board breakers are like, when I think of board breakers, I think of evenly and things like that, but I wanted to include those kinds of cards as well because you do need to be dealing with a board. So in my mind, it falls under the category. So if you disagree or agree, like whatever it might be, I still think it's better to have more cards in the video than less of them. So there's that. And before we get started, I just wanted to shout out my patrons. I'm very thankful for your guys' support. And if any of you want to support me over there, you can always check the link in the description below. And also, as for the tiers, I decided to do the staple tier instead of the goated tier, just because I don't feel like any one of them in particular, maybe talent, which is a spoiler, but you know that already, is like necessarily goated. So we're just going to be discussing cards that I would personally like put in staple and sort of suggest you find space in your side deck for, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and really get started. So first we have Zuking Alpha, and I still think it's decent. Every single tier list, I put it in decent. Like, what it is that boards right now have way too much presence. And Zuking Alpha, yes, in itself, it is two things. Like, it's a destruction by battle if it battles, and it's a bounce. So it should be, in theory, dealing with two things, but it's not always going to be successful just because, like I said, there's so much going on in the game, not only with the board you're trying to make, but with people playing during your opponent's turn, or during your turn, I should say. Like, sure, you can add something with Zuking Alpha, and then they're still going to go, oh, Hafines, or something, or another thing, or, you know, Flunder, when of course they play during your turn. And it's just like, it doesn't seem that useful, so I think it should only go in decent. And then we have Book of Eclipse, and I wanted to actually mention this one because I think it's not worth it right now, but I wanted to talk about it because post Photon Hypernova, when Kashtira comes out, this card is going to be really nice to be able to deal with their board. So I just wanted to mention it right now to sort of talk about, I guess, its implications into the future, I guess, if that makes sense. Right now, not worth it though. I don't think it's worth playing, even though the effect is not bad, but there is the drawback of giving them the draws, and it's like, it just doesn't seem good enough right now. But post Photon Hypernova, I think you should get a playset and just have it ready, because Kashtira, I think, is going to be insane. So yeah, talking about cards that aren't worth it, Chalice. Like, you have cards like Chalice and also Kaijus. I probably should address Kaijus as well, because people always defend Kaijus in my comment section. And I'm not saying Kaijus are bad inherently. Like, they're a special summon that doesn't trigger. It doesn't trigger what they, what they tribute. That's insane. You want to have board breakers that won't trigger your opponent's effects, but being able to only deal with one thing is just bad right now. And that's the case with Kaijus and Chalice as well. So as much as their effects might be nice by themselves, they're just not worth it, like, in the grand scheme of things. So yeah. Then I wanted to talk about Change of Heart, and I'm going to put it in decent over here. And I also wanted to mention Enemy Controller and Mind Control together with it. I put every single one of them on the tier list, and I actually want to group them together. Right now, effects of stealing your opponent's monsters are very nice because cards like any tier limit trap card pretty much, and Smashers, and all of these back row cards that are very much reliant on the monster presence, it's just very, very nice to be able to not only deal with the monster by stealing it, but shutting off the back row as well. And there's many other usages for those cards, just stealing annoying things and just, breaking the board, just like they're meant to do. But the only downside is the fact that they're at 1 when it comes to Mind Control and Change of Heart, because I am sure that they would be placed higher on this tier list if they weren't at 1. So Enemy Controller, like, it's nice, but it has the downside of discarding, and it feels a bit more specific and situational. So it's still only decent, just like both of them, the Change of Heart and Mind Control. But I don't know, it would be cool to see them at more than 1 is all I'm saying. And yeah, so the board breakers when it comes to, well, not board breakers, the back row hate, we could say, when it comes to Cyclone, Lightning Storm, and I also included Twin Twister and Harpies. I'm going to place all of them in staple. I think there's so many reasons for you to have some kind of back row hate in the side deck. And when it comes to specifically those cards, just a couple words on them. Like Lightning Storm to me is really nice. Like people go, oh, Raigeki is way better. I get it. Raigeki is not bad. However, to me, it's much nicer to play Lightning Storm when you have the choice of being able to pop spell trap. So there's that. Cosmic Cyclone, like I think is really nice because you're not triggering anything that's going to go to the graveyard and give pluses to people like Tier Elements anything. So you're just getting rid of it completely. And it's also so nice because cards like, D-Fissure, Macrocosmos, they're coming back and you just want to have access to back row removal to just play it and get rid of any kind of floodgate that might bother you. Twin Twister, it's really, really nice because Tier Elements, if they discard something like a cowback that's really going to give them pluses in the graveyard, Twister is nice and it also pops 2 things. It might be a bit worse than Cyclone because it doesn't vanish. So with any kind of back row in Flunder or something, Sprite, like Floodgates, they're just very useful. So Harpies, yeah, is on there as well. You just might throw it in there while you're at it if you want, if you still have space. And yeah, Dark Hole and Raigeki are the next 2 we need to discuss. And in my opinion, they're still decent. Like that's probably where I would place them. Still above Zuking Alpha, but their placement is probably interchangeable. Dark Hole felt a bit better when Mystic Mine was still legal because you would be able to turn it off by popping your monsters as well. So we knew that was nice, but that's not a thing anymore. And right now, why Dark Hole is useful, and it was before as well, is because of the locks they give you, like Ibli Lock, Raz Disciple, any kind of those cards. Dark Hole is really nice. However, those cards can be outed by Bishios. So since they're light or dark for the most part, you just much more easily deal with them with your cards that you run in the main deck usually anyway. So Dark Hole and Raigeki become a bit worse, but there is the upside of being able to use them again against decks that are very much reliant on having monsters in connection to the back row, like against a Sprite deck or something. However, again, you are only trading with a negate if you're going up against Toads. So that's why they're only indecent, because there's a couple good things about them and a couple downsides as well. And my throat is really dry. So Dark Ruler is the next one. And to me, it's a staple. Like, I honestly think right now with boards being so just big, like there's such a huge board presence, and something like a Droplet, or a Chalice actually as well, but Droplet specifically, I don't think it's that great, but we're going to discuss Droplet just a bit later. So when it comes to Dark Ruler, very nice to cover any kind of board you're going into, whether it be Flunder tier, pretty much anything rogue, anything annoying. It's not bad, honestly, and it's just to me a very, very nice card. But when it comes to Droplet, why I think it's a bit worse right now, and that's pretty much what I wanted to mention earlier, like it seems worse, and I will put it only in decent because it's not only taking care of the entire board, but you choose and you're taking away your own resources while you're at it. Not that many decks actually plus from their stuff being sent to the graveyard for cost. So you don't really, when you don't get value off of Droplet, it immediately feels worse. And because it's not dealing with the entire board, you would need to choose a couple specific things. And still there maybe would be disruptions that you're just not going to be able to deal with because you can't pitch that many cards. And then you don't even have that many cards to play with to play through those disruptions. And it just feels a bit worse. It's pretty much what I'm saying. So when it comes to those types of things, because they are very similar, Evenly to me, it just seems like a very, very nice card. Like straight up in good, like somewhere in the middle of good, I think is the perfect placement for Evenly. It's very nice. People aren't running Omni Negates that much, even though they play Crime. So they might even like side it or not play it at all in some builds, I guess. Like for the most part, I've seen builds with Crime and I would personally play it. I think it's really nice. And yeah, Evenly is just a blowout card. It's insane. It's very, very nice against so many matchups. So if you really want to have a generic card in your side deck, I would suggest Evenly. And Kashira Fendir is the next one we're going to be discussing. And I'm a bit indecisive, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I think I'll put it at the top of good. I won't put it in staple. Like, first of all, not every single deck can play it because Bestios clash with it. So immediately if you're playing Bestios, you're probably not running Fenrir or the other way around. So there's that. The next thing, like, it just seems a bit tricky to use perfectly because it is triggering on the next chain and in very specific timings. Like, if you want to use it and just force things, then you need to sort of waste your battle phase, if you want to call it that way. And yeah, it just feels like we need a bit more time with the card to really get used to it and unlock its full potential, which will probably come post Photon Hypernova. So only top of good right now. Then we have Kurikara, and like, honestly, those cards like Alpha, Kurikara, and I also want to talk about Slayer, all of them feel like they're going straight up in the decent category every single time. They're not bad. It's very interesting effect, actually. They're all very different and they're all very original, and it's so cool. And there's different types of uses for them, but not in this point in time. And I don't know, like I said, they're really nice cards, and I would just suggest you have them, but they don't really seem that impactful. Like with Ultimate Slayer, you're wasting, if you want to call it that way, so many spots, extra deck, side deck, even main deck when it comes to the break with Evo Twins, if you want to run that. Kurikara feels a bit, well, not that great. And we already mentioned Zuking Alpha, so all of them, just have copies of them. You know, if they feel accessible to you, just get them and have them, because there is going to come a format, hopefully, when they're really nice, but it's just not right now. So moving on to more useful cards, I think Lava Golem and Sphere Mode are much better right now. Just like Kaijus, they're not triggering any kind of effects and you're dealing with more things. So it's sort of like you having like 2 or 3 Kaijus. And there's decks that don't really care about their normal summons. So those cards to me feel very, very useful. And MST, I just wanted to include it on here because I would feel sort of bad for leaving it out when I included every single other form of back row hate, but it's not worth it. It's only popping, not banishing, and it's only 1 card, so not that great. And Pankratops to me just feels very decent. Like, it should probably go here. Yeah, I think this is fine. Like, it's only Pankratops. Again, just like the Mind Control and the Change of Heart that it's placed next to, it feels that it would be much better if it was a 3. And it's nice because it's a quick effect, it's a body, like we know what Pankratops does, but right now it only feels decent. It's like one of those cards where you have 1 more space in your side deck and you flip through your binder and just choose Pankratops because you can't really go wrong with it. And that's pretty much it. And when it comes to Super Poly, like I think it's still fine. Like, I think it's still good. I paused a bit because I was thinking, like, it went down in popularity. You know, people aren't really running it as much as they were before. 4-tier mirror matches. If a board is super polyable, right? Like, it's very nice. And you're turning off Dweller if the board is super polyable for the most part. If they put up Dweller and Rul Kalos, because you would go draw phase priority and just use it, you don't get Dweller. That's nice. But it's not always going to be super polyable. And I still think it's very, very nice because we have Garura. And because we have Garura, there's immediately, that's unlocking so many ways of just abusing it and just using it against very specific decks. So that's why I still think it has a ton of usage. And to round things off with an insanely strong card I mentioned before, Talent is top of staple in my opinion. It's so nice, and it's also so nice to see because it did feel a bit mediocre ever since its release. But right now, obviously every single effect is busted and people are playing during your turn. So Talents just immediately becomes 100 times better. And I can't talk enough about this card, enough good things about this card. It's very nice. You can either main it, side it, just yeah, like I said, every single effect is so nice, and you just choose what you want to use in that particular situation. And I think that's insane. So yeah, that's the tier list. I think it's fine. I think I'm satisfied with it. If there's anything you would like to, I guess, add or maybe change or talk about, any kind of staple you would want me to add next time when it comes to board breakers, if I end up doing another one of these in a month or something, let me know. And of course, if you like the video, please like it, sub to the channel, check out all the social media, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.